In Vanuatu, our job was to go out and monitor the volcano because they rely on local tourism. And as we're out there, the clouds were rolling in and the volcano's erupting. There are lava bombs, which are massive boulders on fire that are flying over our head. And so, we set up the portable seismograph and we're getting the readings, but we're looking around. We're like, nope, it's not safe. Like, we need to get out.
If you're within the sound of my voice, you are watching or listening to the Sterling Spin podcast, and I'm excited to bring you a new look at life, at inspiration, at information, a way for you to feel inspired. I'm Liz Sterling, and I want to thank you for joining me for today's program. And my guest, I am so enthusiastic about Jayme Sneider. She has summited Mount Kilimanjaro, and she has represented Colorado as a National Geographic Geo-Inquiry Ambassador. This is a lot of geo stuff, and we're going to learn about it. She brings science to life. Her journey includes working at Mount Rainier National Park, engaging with global geoscience at UNAVCO, and even volunteering with the Boulder Emergency Squad. She's traveled to all 7 continents and brings that same spirit of curiosity and adventure, not only into everything she does, but fortunately into the classroom. Let's dive into the wild, wonderful world of science, education, technology, and exploration with Jayme Sneider. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me. Wow, what an introduction.
Well, it's all you. All I did was go on the website from the Innovation Center and learn about your interests and how you're translating those to the future generation. And I had a chance to come into your classroom on a tour. I'm like, this is the most passionate and interesting person that I've ever met because of the 7 continents, Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Rainier. So roll us back a little bit and tell us, how did you become such an adventurer?
It started when I was young. I just in science class, actually in middle school, I had a passion for natural disasters. It was earthquakes and volcanoes that we were learning about, and I was amazed by just how quickly and powerful Mother Earth could be and how quickly things could change. And I was born and raised in Philadelphia. The Earth doesn't really move that much over there.
Right.
So I knew I would be traveling. And I went to an amazing undergraduate university, Franklin and Marshall College, that allowed me to pursue 2 of my passions. One, I had the opportunity to travel to Japan in high school. And so I was a double major with geosciences and Asian studies.
So I want to just pause for a second. A double major in high school?
In my undergrad.
In undergraduate.
Yes.
Geoscience and
Asian studies.
Yes. And that was the Japanese part of it.
Yes.
Can you just break down the word geoscience just so we all are on the same page and we know exactly what that means?
Sure. So geology is the study of rocks. And I had a blast. As part of being a geoscience major, you go out and you do field camps. So you're dropped off in the field and you look at all of these rocks and they all have a story to tell. And so it's fascinating.
I mean, to me, a rock is a rock, let me tell you.
Well, we would joke after 5 o'clock, it's just a rock. But before then, we have all these different igneous rocks and metamorphic rocks. And so
the geoscience is really of what makes the Earth or of what's produced by events that happen on the earth to produce, whether it's igneous or,
Yes.
sedimentary or metamorphous.
And we're on the geologic time scale. So we're talking about, over like 4.5 billion years. So
Billion,
yes.
You just said. Well, at least that's in our vocabulary these days. We're hearing the word billion. So now we can extrapolate and understand that's a long amount of time. So
Yes.
you brought these two together
Yes.
from Japan, Asian Studies, Geoscience.
And then during college, I was able to go back to Japan, and I just fell in love with the country, the culture, everything about it so much more. And it was perfect. They have lots of volcanoes and lots of earthquakes. So I continued my studies. I was very lucky enough to get a Fulbright scholarship after my undergrad. So between undergrad and graduate school, I worked with Hokkaido University through my Fulbright scholarship. And I was able to work on volcanoes. I was doing exactly what I was hoping I would grow up and do. I was going and presenting at national conferences. We were traveling all over, and it was just amazing. It was all hands-on. I was learning so much, and a big part of that program, the Fulbright opportunity, was that I could bring students on the volcano with us and teach them.
Students when you were in Japan.
Yep. Yeah. We had kindergartners out there. They all had the same hard hats, and they all looked so cute, and they were so excited. And so we would bring them on the volcano and educate them. We would hold like town hall meetings with senior citizens. So it was all ages, and it was a blast. We really got to connect with the students. We got to connect with the community, understanding how to relate with the community when you're talking about something that could potentially have hazards in their own backyard.
Right.
Is a big part of just geology and specifically volcanology.
You talk about earthquakes and you talk about volcanoes, and I heard you're doing something with like robo-roaches. I'm like, what's going on? What are you focusing on or interested? And how are you translating that into the classroom? And I know I'm leaping us forward, but it's like you're too exciting.
Yeah, so currently I'm the bioscience pathway at the Innovation Center, which is part of St. Vrain Valley School District. And I had the honor to design classes and try to develop internships or opportunities for students that is a current need right now. So science is always changing, and innovation is key. Being able to be innovative and keep up with the times and kind of think ahead what's coming is where we're at. So biosciences is a very broad term. Think of it as including all the natural sciences, from biology, geology, chemistry, physics, even astronomy. So we do a lot with bioastronautics, the idea of life in space. So I talk to the students what their interests are and, well, what they were and what they currently are. And then I have an advisory board, which is a group of professionals that are currently working in these fields. And I'm saying, what are your needs? What are you looking for these students?
So you're their voice to those that are already in the field so that they can feed back to you what you're capable of offering to these new young minds that are like ready to be implanted with possibilities for the future.
I try to be. I always say that I did my job if I can get what is needed, what I know is needed for industry, and I can get the students passionate and interested. Like I take their passion, because if they're passionate about something, they do amazing work.
I bet.
And I can put a lab together or an experience, and they just go. Like I can sit back in my classroom and just watch, and they're involved and hands-on. I know what they're doing is useful, and then I'm
so you plant the seed and then they sprout and you get to watch it, and then the fruits that come from that must be amazing. So what are you currently working on? And I want to preface this by saying, what are the real issues of today from a biogeoscientist such as yourself? And I've got to go there, right in the beginning of the program. And then we could go to Mount Kilimanjaro and Rainier after. But, what is really happening?
Well, it depends on which field, because like I said, bioscience is so broad. So in the biotechnology realm, these students are learning hands-on lab skills. So during COVID, all of the extra B-roll or shots that the news would show was someone in a lab using a micropipette, which is basically just moving very, very precise amounts of a very small amount of liquid. And these students learn these skills. So they could go on from that class and go into, looking at vaccines. They can see developing new medicines, making sure medicines are pure, not contaminated, all the way to the idea of GMOs, with genetically modified organisms, all the way to forensic science, with they do gel electrophoresis, so the idea of like DNA fingerprinting. They learn all those skills.
Wow.
And then, there's food scientists. A lot of the students, when I cover food science, they don't even realize those are career options. And so I was lucky. I was able to participate in different programs. This was through the Department of Agriculture. I went to dairy farms. It was called, sorry, I'm forgetting the name, but it was another program that was STEM on the farm. There we go. And
Can you say that again?
sure, STEM on the farm. And they do one that's beef and one that's dairy. I was very happy with the dairy. I had a very interesting experience when I lived in New Zealand on, it was supposed to be a dairy farm and it wasn't, so I was shocked. So I was glad that this one, it was all dairy. But
A
it was
little
also
bit
beef.
easier than the beef, yeah.
Yes, it was for me. Others,
Right, it wouldn't have made a difference.
right. It's, and that's what's so great is all the students have different passions and have different interests and what's their comfort level. And as I said earlier, that's the future generation. So they're the ones that are going to make the difference.
What do you think the potential is for, when you mention genetically modified organisms, you got my attention because we've been talking about that for 30 years. And people still don't know what GMOs are or what's happening. I spoke with some of the advocates who were fighting against GMOs because they were concerned that they were taking salmon genes from the salmon and they were infusing them into tomatoes because they wanted to make the tomatoes hardier. And they were doing like this random, let's shoot some cells into the tomatoes from the salmon. And it's like, we don't know what our bodies will do with this because it's foreign information. And so the body could reject it and that could create all kinds of reactions that could result in cancer, who knows? So for 30 years, but it hasn't really gone that far. What do you think?
Well, there's a lot of thoughts there. Some people think GMOs are great. The idea of we have a lot of more crops around here that are more drought resistant now because of changes that the farmers have seen over the years. Others have possibly that fear of we don't know what's going on. But the technology is there. CRISPR, have you heard of CRISPR?
I have,
With
yes.
gene editing?
Yes.
So the technology is there.
That's pretty new in the lexicon, CRISPR. Could you identify what it is?
Well, it stands for a long name that if you're interested, you can look up. But basically, it's gene editing. And so you can go in and I'll just say muscular dystrophy. You can get tested and see if that is a gene that, that your child may have, or if the daughter is a carrier and it will show up in your son.
Right.
And so
now they're making genetic modifications or edits, like you said.
But because we have the technology, that's a very controversial topic. Where do we go with that? How far do we go? And so we cover a lot in my classroom, at least. We talk about bioethics and we introduce bioethics. But, it's
right.
That's all we do.
Well, for as many people as there are going to be that many opinions. And so I like the fact that there is a bioethics that can be discussed and that information can be implanted so that in these young students, these high school students, they carry that into the future work that they do. Do you think most of the students will go into the biosciences based on what they're being exposed to in the classroom?
I do a lot with conservation and sustainability as well. And so I know that those students, that is all their majors now. They've been out in the field with me. We've been working with locally endangered species or species of concern. One was fish, the northern red belly dace, and the other one is a frog, the northern leopard frog. And these students have done everything from, we are able to get the eggs, we raise them in-house. It's a biosecurity. We're trying to make sure they don't have chytrid fungus or coronavirus. And so we keep them healthy. We follow huge biosecurity protocol. And then we release them in the field and we go out and continue to monitor them in the field. We've used things called eDNA, which is environmental DNA, which is part of biotechnology. We also are very lucky at the Innovation Center. We have our drone team. They come out in the field and help us. We have a robotics team. They come out and help us with all the monitoring of the habitat, and it's habitat restoration after the big flood in 2013. So all of this comes together, and I just had 6 seniors graduate, and every single one of them is majoring in something related to wildlife biology, ecology, and conservation.
What an honor. I mean, that must make your heart sing to know that the work that you're putting in, it's going to carry forward. I mean, that's what we call legacy. That's really nice. Jayme Sneider is joining me in the studio, and she is an adventurer. She is a teacher at the Innovation Center. She takes the passion that she has and she shares it with others. And you can find out more through the St. Vrain Valley School District Innovation Center. She is a bioscience teacher, and you can just jump onto the website and you could learn more about her innovation and programs. And I want to thank you all for listening to the Sterling Spin. Please subscribe. Just hit the subscribe button and then the notification bell. And I thank you so much. You'll be notified every week. We have a new show that comes to you, and you can see our guests are phenomenal. I'm really excited to welcome our newest podcast sponsor, Julie Furman and Cupid's Coach. Julie is one of the most respected matchmakers in the country with over 1,400 matches and a real gift for helping people find not just dates, genuine love, and lasting love. Whether you're ready to meet someone special, or maybe you really just want some expert guidance on navigating the dating scene, Julie's personalized approach, I'd call it a game changer. You can learn more and start your journey and see where love takes you. Sponsors, we are always calling in and welcoming sponsors to support the continuing and ongoing of the Sterling Spin podcast. And you may have a story, or you know someone who has a story, and that being the case, please contact me by email, sterlingspin@gmail.com. And I'm Liz Sterling with Jayme Sneider in the studio, and we are talking about the fruits of your, I can't call it labors because it's something else. Now, take us to the continents. We're going to go backwards before we go forwards again. 7 continents, and you've been to each one, and Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Rainier. So some highlights of your life adventures, where you've been, what you've done, what you've seen.
Well, the great thing about studying volcanology is that the volcanoes can't get up and come to you, so you get to travel to them.
Oh, and I thought you were saying Vulcans like Star Trek and Dr. Spock. No, I'm kidding.
No, volcanoes are the ones that explode and are fascinating.
Have you ever seen an active volcano?
Yes. Yeah. So I spent most of my work is around the Western Pacific Rim of Fire. My graduate work was down in Antarctica on Mount Erebus. So we would acclimate, we'd go up onto a glacier and acclimate at the glacier. So you would sleep on it. You'd hear the glacier move while you're sleeping.
How many, I know feet, it's usually kilometers.
In meters.
In meters.
I don't know off the top of my head.
High.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, you said Kilimanjaro, you were at 18 the night before?
We camped at over 18,000 feet, and then Kilimanjaro is over 19,000 feet.
Right. So these glaciers, was it so much that they were not so high as they were moving?
Right. So it was just a good point where the helicopter could let us off. And then from there, we could take a snowmobile up to the top where our camp was, because we would camp out. It was a field season's usually about 3 to 4 months.
In Antarctica?
Mm-hmm. Because it's the field season. So our winter months is their summer. So 24 hours of daylight. So it was fun. We'd be doing field work, and I would be like, why do I feel hungry? And I look at my watch. I'm like, it's 11:30 at night. That's why. But it was great. We'd just be out there working.
Wow. So you slept on a glacier?
Yes.
Yes, that must have been, wow. How did it sound? What is it like?
Yeah, you just kind of hear movement throughout the night. I mean, glaciers are always moving. So, yeah, it was fun.
Fascinating. Getting up to the top of Kilimanjaro?
Well, Kilimanjaro was luxury because we went through a tour company.
Yeah.
So someone else carried the majority of your gear. They had your tent set up when you came in at night. And so that was much nicer than what I'm used to. I had an internship. It was based in Fiji through SOPAC, so it's like the South Pacific. And from there, we got sent out to Vanuatu. So we were camping out on an ash plain.
You've got my head spinning here, girlfriend.
Well, it was very different. So I set up my own tent, but I had to have guards assigned to me because there's still cannibalism on the island. So you have to be like approved by the local chief before you go onto the island. And but my guards, they didn't have tents, they didn't have hiking boots, and it's igneous rocks. If you put your hand down, it will just tear up your hand.
Yeah.
But they're used to it, so they could just with
Wow.
the calluses, they could walk right over, and they put down like big leaves, like banana leaves, and they put it down, and that's what they slept on.
Wow.
So
that's just fascinating. You have a family now.
I do.
You're settled. You're teaching. We still have to get to those roboroaches.
Oh yes, that's the whole. We haven't spoken about the neuroscience.
Yeah, and the neurosciences. So, any other? I mean, what you described is really incredible. Is there any other event or experience in your life that is still outstanding, like that? It lives in your cells.
Well, the original question was, have I been by an active volcano? And so in Vanuatu, our job was to go out and monitor the volcano because they rely on local tourism. And as we're out there, the clouds were rolling in and the volcano's erupting. There are lava bombs, which are massive boulders on fire that are flying over our head. And so, we set up the portable seismograph and we're getting the readings, but we're looking around. We're like, nope, it's not safe. Like, we need to get out.
Right.
But that was the part of really understanding the locals. Wherever, in all of my travels, learning the local culture is huge. That's how you can relate. It's more accepting. Last summer, I had the honor of having another Fulbright scholarship. This was an Educator Fulbright scholarship, so I worked in Vietnam. And I do not speak any Vietnamese, so I really relied on body language to understand the culture, make sure I wasn't being rude, and really picking up on that is key. If you can relate to the locals and that acceptance, the science just comes naturally. You can go so much further.
You're talking about the basic human condition of connection.
Yes.
Of being able to feel, sense another person and them feel you. And from that comes the trust. And then, of course, our hearts can open to each other. I had a very similar experience in Vietnam. So, and did you enjoy the pho for breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Yes, I tried all different types of food. So I'm a sweet tooth. So I think one of my favorites was avocado ice cream.
Yum, yum, yum.
So I'm not the healthiest.
So thank you for sharing these incredible and wonderful experiences. Let's come back into today. There's something called the STEM, STEM, and that's an integration of potpourri of studies that are brought into the curriculum. Is that correct?
It's science, technology, engineering, mathematics.
Oh, you said that very fast. Let's slow down and do it again. Science,
technology, engineering, and mathematics.
So how about if we do like a little bit of a Rorschach?
Okay.
And if we take each one and you give me, like a quick, what is actually happening in the world of science to start with?
Can I change it?
Yeah.
The idea is that it's all integrated. So my program is an engineering-backed program. And so the neuroscience came about, those classes and opportunities came about totally by student interest. It is very rare to find a high school program that really takes neuroscience to the opportunity of being part of citizen science projects. I've had students present at national conferences about their neuroscience work.
Help me again. We did geoscience before. Now, neuroscience. I want to make sure that I understand, that the listeners understand.
Yes.
What is neuroscience?
The study of the brain. There's so many different neurological conditions that exist. Parkinson's disease, ALS, Alzheimer's, and there are no cures. Every person is different, and we are learning so much about the brain, how the brain works. We are lucky. We work with a program called SciGlass, where the students have lectures in virtual reality. So they can look at very high resolution MRI, CT scans.
These are high school students.
High school students.
Wow, I'm very impressed.
And then there's also a company called Backyard Brains. That's where we did the cyborg RoboRoach lab.
What does that mean?
So, a cyborg, the way that my students explained it best, the idea of kind of half like mechanic robotic and half human. And so Backyard Brains has a human to human interface. So my students, we cover a lot with bioethics where I could be hooked up to electrodes and you could be hooked up. And if I move my arm, it forces you to move your arm against your will. So my students kind of had that feeling. They could relate and sympathize because what they then did is they performed a minor surgery on cockroaches. And we went over the idea of animal models, what makes a good animal model, the pros and cons with using animals as research.
Right, which is frowned upon in many places these days. So,
Many.
but when you think about a cockroach, then you can reduce it to, oh, not much happening in there. But there is, isn't there? There's a brain and
well, they have a lot less
blood.
neurons than us, but also for us, they're kind of pets. We've been able to observe that they have feelings and they'll go over to each other, and so so the students
So
really
these
learn
are
a lot.
cyborg. Are they actually cyborg? Because
So-
there's parts of them that they're mechanical.
So the students they perform a minor surgery where they have to cut into the antennas and they put electrodes in through the antennas because that's their main sensory area. And then they have to put a grounding wire under one of the wings. And
Now they can control them
Exactly.
the way
So-
they were controlled.
So they can feel like the little bit of shock that they felt with the electric current. That's what's happening with the cockroaches. So they have it on their device. When they swipe right, the cockroach will start to turn right, even if it doesn't want to.
Right.
So they're kind of getting a glimpse of what their future
Wow.
could hold if they want to go that way. And I will say, going back to another one of your questions, this is a newer program, and I've had students graduate through those classes and the capstone, and they are majoring in neuroscience.
Wow. So I think that's probably one of the most important areas is to understand the brain because we see the disintegration and we want to be able to have enhancement. We want, to keep the brain as active as we can. And there are so many different fads and ideas running, myths and stories. So what have we learned about the brain that you can pass on to those who are watching today? Because there's longevity involved and people are living so much longer. We want to keep a healthy brain.
Exactly. Keep your brain busy.
Keep your brain busy.
Keep it active. I am definitely not a neuroscientist, but just we work with a lot of neuroscientists, and the neuroscientists are the ones that give these lectures. And so what I've learned over the years, really, I wish I had students here because I would say, ask them. They would tell you all about it. They've been able to explore a brain tumor. They've been able to, with virtual reality, act as like if they were a neurosurgeon and kind of get those skills and experiences.
Wow.
So
this is really innovative. Could we take one more second to go back to the STEM? Because we talked about the neuroscience, neurobiology. What about technology? What do you see? What are you learning? What are you hearing? And then, of course, I'm going to take us into the AI. We had a brief conversation about it before. But what are your thoughts, being that you're watching it evolve?
So as I said, the virtual reality, there's another class, an anatomical case studies class that we do in virtual reality. We have amazing local volunteers here. So we've had representatives from Longmont United Hospital come in, and my students have to explain a case study to them and go through the body. And the feedback we get is, it's great that you're learning the virtual reality tools because now they're doing a lot of trainings that way.
Right.
So
I mean, and we look at robotic surgeries, the way they're happening these days. The doctor is in another room and hands are in a glove and they're performing the surgery, keeping a very sterile environment and performing the surgery. I mean, I just think I'm very impressed with what's happening.
Colorado we have a Colorado Bioscience Institute, and they really incorporate teachers into a lot of these companies. So recently I was able to take a tour at Medtronic, and Medtronic also, they come and do labs in our room with the idea of like energy and surgery and conserving energy, and the students get to practice with tools. But at Medtronic, they have robots and they're used in surgery. And in fact, I have a student who she just finished her freshman year at Georgia Tech, and she this summer has been interning at Medtronic.
Wow.
So, so we have these great connections, and it is what the technology is there, and it's how we use it, how we train people, And how can we keep going? How can we keep improving? So we also do with bioastronautics. I've had students the past 2 years be invited down to NASA, the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. I've had students present at a very professional conference in Galveston, Texas, about any kind of studies relating to the human body in space.
Wow.
So this idea of extreme environments. And technology is key with this.
Yeah.
And the students were able to talk directly to astronauts and show they engineered their design. They had their prototype there. It's through a program called NASA Hunch. And astronauts could give them direct feedback. The flight surgeons are part of this. And so it's real-time feedback. Like,
wow. It's just fascinating. You are fascinating. Last question, because we're wrapping up. What do you do in your fun time?
I love the outdoors. I used to really be into triathlon, so I still like to bike and swim. I'm a terrible runner, so I don't do that. My family's a big whitewater family, so we go whitewater rafting and kayaking and camp along the rivers a lot.
I just saw a documentary of Billy Joel, and at the end of it, it was great. And it's called And So It Is on HBO Max. And at the end of it, he talked about how his mother and father had musical talent, how his musical talent is now translated to his children. Has your scientific prowess developed and expressed itself through children? I'm just assuming that you have.
Our dinner conversations are usually quite scientific. Actually, it's funny that you talk about music, because both my kids love music and I have no musical talents at all. So
someone did somewhere.
I'm very glad that they are their own individuals, and I just hope that they're happy with what they do.
Thank you so much, Jayme Sneider, for being with us from the Innovation Center. Absolutely fascinating. And I'd like to invite you to come back with some of the children. Students. They're not even children. Some of your students.
My students would love that.
Pick some of the students and have them come and share what they're learning and what it's like to be in those brilliant minds.
And thank you so much for having me today and taking the time to talk to me.
You're welcome. So Jayme Sneider from the St. Vrain Valley School District at the Innovation Center, thank you for inviting me into your classroom, and thank you for coming into the studio. Till the next time you are within the sound of my voice, I want to invite you to please subscribe. Do it right now. Then hit the notification bell. You'll be notified every time that we have a new program that drops. Thank you for being you. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for being here. Be well, be blessed. This is Liz Sterling saying, keep spinning toward tomorrow today. Bye.